Okay, we're going to start the meeting of the Curriculum Instruction Committee. I'm going to give everybody some forewarning. I'm sick and it's about as loud as I can get without starting to cough, so I apologize. Everyone's going to have to put on their listening ears. I'm Julia Olafson. We have Mrs. Albright, Mr. Miller, Mr. Stroll here from the board. We have Mr. Hurley, Dr. Sincerapina, Mr. McKnight, Mrs. Hefter, I know, Mrs. Rexroad, Mr. Dane Miller from the administration. Okay, so we're going to start with an update on the Future Ready Index from Mr. Hurley.
Yeah, I'll pass around these papers. It'll give you an idea. Right now we have two different portions of the Future Ready Index that we're looking to add in addition to PSSA. Kind of give you an update as where we're at, real briefly here. Study Island, which is working on it right now, there's a part that the vendor has to provide us, has to deal with the research behind the correlation between their scores and the PSSA standards. Study Island is moving on this pretty well. Our F&P assessments is still to be determined. I'm less optimistic we'll be able to include them as part of our Future Ready Index scores next year. But what I gave you right there, just as a follow-up to our conversation last week, is the steps that we're taking as a school district in order to try to get those additional metrics included in the Future Ready Index itself. As you can see, one of those steps involves the vendors. If they don't provide that information or can't provide that information, the state won't accept those as additional indicators. If they choose not to, then the PSSAs will alone be used as we go forward.
For anyone who wasn't here last month, this is a continuation of a discussion where we are trying to make some changes with the State Department of Ed to how our school is assessed, and we have to come up with a proposal for that alternate method, and so we're just taking those next steps now. So, do any of the board members have any questions about the packet we just got?
If you have any questions, I know it's a pleasure reading for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot an email to me. I'll be happy to answer them.
Do you have any questions right now?
No, not really. No.
Mr. Sherrill, did you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. We are now going to, if any members of the public have any questions, we'll take them at the end. And we're going to move on to the discussion of iPads at the high school. I don't know who's going to give that report.
Dr. C will talk in a minute. I'll give you a brief update on one thing. We have tentatively scheduled on March 14th, 21st, 28th, and April 11th, 14th, and 18th an outside group to come in and do actual graduate work at our middle school. The only thing we're waiting on the company to get is they have to change their insurance certificate to meet our requirements. But that is basically a go at this point in time. And as soon as they get their certificate updated, then we'll advertise to our staff, et cetera, et cetera. Dr. C is going to go over some information. Obviously, Scott Mass isn't here because he's at a technology conference, but Dr. C is going to act as a surrogate on this.
So I cornered Scott at the technology conference. So where we are right now, Scott shared that what he was asked to share was where we are with securing student devices, preventing them from installing inappropriate apps and things of that nature. So at this point, he shares that they've put Apple Classroom or will put Apple Classroom on those devices to monitor student activities, and they have also plans to lock down permission to purchase apps and download apps and those pieces and parts. They've also done some professional development with teachers in August. So in August, that was sort of the initial Apple training, some Google training, and then they've done some more training in October around following up, next steps, those pieces. Teachers had some time to develop some activities and kind of get them in the works in their classrooms. And then they are using some time on Thursday for some further professional development around Schoology and Google and presentation apps and those sorts of pieces and parts as well. All of that in hopes of having a successful implementation come September, August. And you'll be here next month. Details beyond that.
Do we have a plan for training and any of the steps? Is there, you had mentioned that there's training in middle school. Is there any detailed planning or?
The course itself, I can get you a syllabus of the course if you'd like. That's a graduate course that we're offering. We're actually bringing them in to offer graduate training for them. That's what we're talking about. We're hosting it at the middle school because the facilities there are very modern.
Okay, yeah, no, I would like to see the syllabus, but I thought Scott was going to present, so he'll present next month. But just the status of where we are with the equipment, as far as getting it ordered, the training, any of the planning that's going on, just getting some of the details of what we're going to do to roll the program.
Yeah, he can certainly do status of ordering. Where we are with staff development is what I just shared. So students, Preston, maybe you've got some kid pieces.
Yeah, so there's a little more. So last year, before we... So I have to hold
The whole time.
Jeez.
Flip the switch.
All right. I don't think you need this, but so last spring, all teachers did Apple Teacher, Apple Educator training before they got their iPads. That's how they got them.
Okay.
So there were a host of things that they had to do to get certified. So they have that. In the summer, Apple asked us for 2 days. We arranged the schedule for 2 days. We had 1 day of training and 1 day of teachers having independent work. Same thing happened in October. Scott and I were thrilled about some of the pieces there and getting feedback from the teachers with Apple about that training piece, but that's what's led to the modification for this Thursday. Additionally, we'll be going into the summer and having some more conversations with the team about some institute-style opportunities for people to learn, and then we'll have some more training going forward in the early August time, right before teachers come back again. The rollout that we're looking at now is an implementation plan to roll out, putting devices in students' hands the first 2 days of school. Scott has a whole system, how they're going to go through photos, of school photos to start the year, and then now get their iPads. So he'll lay out the details and intricacies of that. The goal is that teachers bring 1 unit on through the Schoology platform to start this year as we go forward, going down through. It's going to take us, in my opinion, probably 3 to 5 years till we're fully implemented and providing teachers the full support to bring courses totally integrated on with high school.
Okay, so you have 1 course, the rest is going to include textbooks, or because I thought we didn't purchase textbooks.
Yeah, so right now, the teachers have textbooks.
Right.
So there's, we're in a, I would say for lack of a better term, a blended model between the hard text and bringing materials online. And that process will continue ultimately until all of it, or much of it, I would say, probably fair to say 90% of it is happening through an online platform.
Okay. And are the teachers planning their own curriculum, or selecting? You said they selected 1 course. Are they picking it, or is that being directed? Or
I'm going to kick that back over to Dr. Sincerapina.
Just coming on board now. I mean, ultimately, it'll be our curriculum that they're doing. And what they're rolling out at this point is a unit that is already part of our existing curriculum.
okay.
So they're not necessarily creating something totally new. They're creating a new way of delivering our existing curriculum.
But so our curriculum is available through Apple Works or wherever we're getting the material, or we have to modify it?
So curricularly speaking, what we're looking at is the curriculum is irrelevant of the delivery system, okay, whether it's a textbook or whether it's a device.
Right.
So our curriculum is our curriculum.
Okay.
They're bringing that curriculum onto the Schoology platform so kids can access it that way digitally. Ultimately, like in any schools, we go through curriculum cycles. More of these pieces will be integrated through Dr. Sincerapino and the way she sees it coming online.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, so we're going to move on to AP Computer Science.
Mr. McKnight?
That's the reason I'm here tonight. There's a few things for that. So, I don't know if Tracy's here right now. Yeah, Tracy Greenhouse may be here later this evening. She approached me a little while ago about bringing AP Computer Science, and that's one of the areas we do not have an AP course. So as we looked at it, the right time for us to do it will be as we transition from our kind of homemade computer science programming that we have and into that model. So Mrs. Greenhouse is certainly interested in taking that project on. We need to get her trained. The nice thing about the AP Computer Science course is AP and College of Word will talk to you about two of their courses that they consider entry courses. AP Human Geography and AP Computer Science are their entry-level courses to draw kids in the 9th and 10th grade. So we think it's a good idea. We have support for it in the math department. I sent it, I don't know if they get the whole curriculum layout, but there's about 134-page pack for you to read to have a sense of what that curriculum is. And if you didn't get it, Mr. Hurley, we'll be able to shoot it over to you. But yeah, it's a nice entry program as we segue from one to the other.
Can you address how the process works a little bit with AP, with the AP, the people that accredit us to teach that? What the teacher will have to do in order to be able to teach that course?
So generally speaking, it varies a little bit, but the general premise is that they're going to go to do a one-week workshop in the summer at an AP institute, and they're held all over the country. We always look for the closest one based on expense. So a lot of times Baltimore seems to be a hub. They'll go down and stay in Baltimore for the week. They'll go all week to courses to teach this and partner with other people around the country who are teaching AP Computer Science. They'll find out what the curriculum is, what the requirements are on how to deliver it, and then they become certified to teach it.
I just wanted to...
The trick on this one, I believe that this one is in Vermont, so there's going to be a little bit more expense than previous, maybe some of the other ones. That would be the one hang up. But again, the benefit of that, of getting the training, because not only does it benefit our AP course, it also brings institutional knowledge in terms of computer programming within our department, which I think is really valuable in the short term and long term for us.
Okay, and in the future, if we do offer AP Computer Science, the one thing I noticed when we looked at the regular classes that we offer in computer science, there's no Java there. I believe that's offered with AP.
Yeah, so obviously we have a staff member who had a high interest historically and developed the computer program, the educational program. So they're unique to his skill sets. Moving forward, we'll be moving into the most current practice, so Java will be part of that.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that.
In the long term, in terms of programming, it's something we're going to look at from a curriculum standpoint when we talk about secondary and even in the later elementary years in terms of teaching programming. Without question, some people even call it the foreign language of the future with kids, and so it's something that we are exploring ourselves and how we can make that more robust for our students, and certainly an AP course would be a nice angle for this type of thing.
So is the plan for it to start in 1819 or 1920?
It depends on some other transitional issues with staff, so we don't know that answer yet.
Okay.
We'll bring it to you as soon as we have it, as soon as we have the answer.
And I guess whatever the curriculum teaches as far as languages, because I'm not sure Java is the language that we're training in today. There are others that are being used for training.
Well, my understanding is that it definitely wouldn't be 1819 because we don't have that. We don't have kids signing up for that, but it could be at some point in the future.
One of the things that we might be bringing to you in the future, just so you're not blindsided, is that if, how am I going to say this wrong? If a staff member were to retire and we had to make the adjustment at the right time, we would look to do that.
Okay.
So we never know who's going to retire when until we get notification.
Okay.
So we will be updated as that point.
Fair enough. Any questions? Okay, so the next thing on the list is what maybe some of the folks here want to hear about. We're going to be discussing assemblies, and let me just say kind of where I'm at with this right now. that what I'm hoping to know a little bit is I want a little bit of a review of how assemblies are approved for the school. Right now, it is the discretion of the administration when we have assemblies brought in, and I don't think that's something that the board has ever gotten involved in the past, and I don't think, my personal opinion is that I just want to have confidence that the way assemblies are approved and brought in, that we have confidence that the administration are bringing things in that are good for the students and are enriching their academics, or some other. There are plenty of reasons to bring in an assembly, but that I don't think that we need to be at the board level picking those ourselves, or saying yay or nay to every little thing. But I do think that the board wants to have some more understanding about how those things are brought in. So that's where we're going to start this conversation, and we will go from there, I guess. So I don't know who's going to start with that.
Well, there's a couple things we can do. First, up until now, the choosing of assemblies has been the prerogative of the building principal. They're certainly most aware of the needs of the students, the current affairs that their students are having, those types of things, and the current issues. So each building, there's been very informal processes in terms of that. There is no administrative guidelines on choosing assemblies, although we all pretty much do it the same way in terms of we contact other schools about the assemblies, and I'll certainly let Mr. McKnight talk about the high school. We research the assemblies. We try to obtain the materials beforehand. We try to gather as much information about the groups that are coming in to present to the students. Certainly, once we turn the microphone over to groups, the microphone is then in their hands at that point in time. What we can do, and I did research other school districts, I could not find any admin guidelines that other school districts have in terms of assemblies. That's not a common practice. However, I did create some potential administrative guidelines that we could certainly adopt, although I'm not so sure that I would just be formalizing a process that's pretty much in place informally for us here as we go. So I'll kind of pass these around to you. And Mr. Malik, maybe you can talk specifically to this, what they're addressing here.
Before you do that, quick question as far as administrative guidelines. I know we get policies from the PSBA. Do we subscribe to the service for guidelines from there as well?
No, we do not subscribe currently. They do offer a service for that. And if we were to do that, I can get you the price. I've actually quoted that out.
Because I'm going to bring it up later. We were at the training. 3 of us attended the training last week, and it was very good. Some of the stuff that they went into, some of their offerings.
I would love to have the administrative guidelines that help us in terms of updating them. Administrative guidelines tend to be customized more than policies per se, but it would be a great service and benefit to us as a school district.
Thanks.
So we'll just go with the elephant in the room and talk about the YWCA presentation. And that's very simple. Back in August, Mr. Harris had come in contact with the YWCA, invited myself to, begin to deal with an issue that he and I had been working on going back, I would say, a year and a half. And that issue is issues of race and discrimination and gender, challenges, all right? In talking with the YWCA, their platform is exclusively about eliminating racism and empowering women. Had many conversations with Ms. Grosser, who I think is a very nice person. I keep a file for such things. We had over 20 email conversations back and forth, 5 personal meetings. We vetted the conversation many times to talk about the programs they had, and I think I shared that paper with you guys, things from Empowering Women and Girls International, teen dating violence. These are all very real issues that we have in high school, and if we are under the impression that they're not, then we should take a deeper look. We live them every day. For a couple of years, I would have students come to me with a concern that did not happen to be from the dominant population and things that were happening to them. So we felt like this was an appropriate topic to have in an assembly. The conversation that we talked about was that this was to be a kickoff assembly in January. We discussed contextualizing it around kicking off the Girls Take the Lead program, Girls International Teen Dating Violence, And as we were leading into Black History Month, that we wanted to do something on racial advocacy and racial justice. So, but they were all meant to be introductory kickoff things that then students, the way we run the assemblies at the high school generally, is that we allow students to sign up on a Google Doc. They're then accountable for their information. Occasionally we do whole school assemblies. This happened to be a whole school assembly because we wanted to make sure that we had all students introduced to different programs. That program ensued. This is the first time. I did talk to Steve Rodriguez, who's the superintendent at Pottstown, where they've done other programming. He thinks very highly of the YWCA. I have many good things to say about them and their work. In talking with Kelly, we had conversations about the size of the presentation, the fact that it'd be a kickoff to a large group, topics such as that. They had never done a presentation to that large of a group before, and the whole idea was that this would be what was in it. You always look at what's in it for us as a school, what's in it for them as a group to come to a presentation. And they felt like this could be a template for them going forward to go do other large group presentations. Okay. So as we got into the presentation, there were clearly some pieces that our students were offended by, were uncomfortable with. And one parent who contacted me early on, there was very negative contacts from parents to me about how could this happen. And I certainly listened to all the things they said. Some people thought I should have grabbed the microphone from her. I will tell you, and Jim Harris will tell you, those who were there will tell you that that was not the tenor in the room. The tenor in the room, Kelly was very self-deprecating, good humor, so forth and so on. But when she used the term that was charged, students responded in a charged way. So that was kind of where it went off the rails a little bit. It was not chaos or kids at that level being upset, but I doubt that they'd ever heard that kind of a thought before. Personally, I don't know if that's the worst thing. We are here to help kids grow socially, emotionally, and academically. I do think that's our mission and our charge. So that's where that came from. That's kind of how it evolved. Could we have managed it differently? Well, clearly, we could have looked at a few things differently. I think in hindsight, there were some things for us to reflect on maybe and look at using different terminology in the conversation. I think that's the takeaway from it. Just kind of work with our partners who come in and make sure that we're kind of in a place that we understand this is this level of audience, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade kids who are essentially 14 to 17 years old, or 18.
You said you talked to Kelly since the assembly?
Only after the assembly, and I have not had any emails or information call returned, no.
Okay, so I was just wondering if you had spoken to her, like how she felt it went over.
I know immediately afterwards, she felt that it was positive, that the message was maybe not easy. We both talked about losing the room a little bit. Kelly is a former educator, so she understands teaching. So at that point, at the end of the conversation, I take the microphone back and I dismiss the students, and I kind of close and try to bring it back together on that side. But she and I both spoke about the good things that happened in there, good things for kids to consider, and conversations for them to have at home, as well as things that clearly there was a rumbling, on a few things that came out. The other piece I think that actually a parent recommended to me, which I think is excellent, is that in the future, and I do now, certainly send an email home. We have a massive connected system. Just send an email home. This is tomorrow's topic. This is what's going to be going on, and people can make those decisions. And I think that has been a good recommendation from the community.
Did we ever receive the materials? I know right after we had asked to see the materials that were used to present. I haven't seen them.
I asked Kelly to email me those, and she did not.
Okay. I guess as far as the topic, the charge terms, if they would have come out as a preview, I think you would have gotten some pushback, because it is a very controversial subject.
The other thing, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, just to say, I think there are a lot of topics and things that we need to address. It might be a smaller crowd, but that's a specific term that they're using. There's a different agenda that's going around. There are different movements, and so there could have been better ways to address it. But absolutely, things that we need to address, racism and others. So absolutely.
The one thing I wanted to ask specifically was one of the other board members had brought up at the last meeting how not not having a child having gone to that assembly and hearing it from them. And to be honest, even if you hear, I have 2 kids, so even hearing it from your own kids, it's not necessarily what actually happened, what they tell you, what occurred at an assembly. It would have been beneficial for some of the board members to be able to hear the, like even just the audio of what was going on, what the presenter was presenting. I was told that might be an issue of privacy, that we might have an issue with making that tape. But even if we just had an audio, when we receive several emails from the public, positive or negative, that it's sometimes, especially when something like this happens and you're going to get, if you get 10 emails, you get 10 different opinions of what happened and whether it was good or bad. Is that something that could happen in the future?
The only thing I can say is when you bring in, not community groups like the YWCA, but people who do this nationally, there's a circuit of people who do assemblies. The other things are copyrighted, generally speaking, so I'm not sure. We'd have to ask maybe Brian Subers about that kind of stuff.
I think we need to get some clarification in terms of recording and what we could and couldn't do there. So I'd like to talk to our solicitor about that. I understand what your desire is there, but I want to get clarification from him on that.
What do the other board members here think about that? I just wanted to get your take on that. It's just going in blind and having to determine if something that occurred was beneficial for the students or not beneficial. I mean, I understand that it's subjective. It's just a little bit easier if you have some of what occurred in front of you to make that decision.
The question I have is, there going to be a second request for that presentation? I have not made it. Is a plan to have it? I don't know how important, because you had mentioned you wanted to see it, it's something that we wanted to bring up. That's number one. Number two, my second question would be, is there any communication at that point where, again, I wasn't communicated with, but you were communicated with from the administration? Would that have helped that any versus a recording? Because I can certainly understand there's NDAs, there's a lot of things. If you're going to go national, you would have to probably take into consideration prior to an assembly, but maybe that communication might have helped.
I
So
think
there was
that-
a great deal of communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, following there was a lot of communication. Are you talking about beforehand, or because I mean, we don't want to get into managing the process. I mean, that's for the administration. We would set guidelines and governance, and maybe it'd be a good idea if there's a controversial topic that's coming up that we knew about it. But and recording, you're right. I don't know if it's legal or not.
The second issue regarding was requested. I know Mr. Harris has spoken to the YWC quite a bit through the process, and I know that he had requested it also, but where it stands at this point, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it would be relevant if we're planning on bringing them back in to continue the program. I'd like to see it and at least talk about some of the outcomes, some of the negative issues, and some of the positive feedback that we had.
I will close on this, that, early on, of course, there was negative feedback the first day, but I will say ultimately, and I will gladly share the emails, I saved everything. It's pretty even. I probably had 50 emails or calls, and 25 were positive, and 25 didn't think we should address those kind of things, that they should only address them at home. So, it's obviously a little divisive. These topics tend to be.
And that's understandable. It's just more difficult coming from a mass email to the board when you had the benefit of being there and seeing it. I can't comment on something I didn't see, and so everything was what I was told. And I understand the whole concept of wanting the recording and getting that, but I do think that's going to be a whole. I mean, we can't do your job for you. We're not trying to. It's just, I think that. It was a bad situation, I think, all in all.
I did get some personal feedback. So, 2 students that were there.
Well, I got that too, but I take all of that with a grain of salt, so.
Mr. Harris was there as well. I mean, he was not disagreeing. So.
Anything else from the board? Okay. I have new business listed next. However, if anybody is here that wanted to offer anything that they wanted to discuss concerning assemblies. We can go ahead and do that now. So,
That's not.
okay. So, now we wanted to move on to new business. Did we want to discuss anything else?
Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about physical education in the high school and middle school and secondary levels and uniforms and some grading practices and things along those lines.
You get 10 minutes.
And the beat goes on. Well, really,
Just kidding.
we want to get these things on your radar. Okay, there's nothing to be decided tonight. But, I deal substantially with, when grading comes out, with a lot around physical education. And so we want to begin to have some dialogue about uniform requirement versus not having the traditional uniform requirement. We want to deal with the course in a pass, fail, sat, unsat, or graded model. And so those are some of the dialogues. I had a friend of mine who is a pretty renowned guy in physical education and movement in education. He actually stopped by to see me today. And so we began to talk about a number of things. And there are a number of groups out there. I think it's time that, at least for the high school, I can't speak for the other buildings, that we go under a substantial review of what we're doing in physical education at the high school. To me, it's not about whether you have the right color shirt on or that you, didn't take your jewelry out when they said take it out. I mean, those are certainly safety issues we want to address. But it's not, we can't dock kids. We should not dock kids for those things. And how we're going forward, to me, should most critically be about physical education and fitness. And so I think it's just time to go on a review of this whole topic.
I think that's a great idea. Some feedback I've gotten is it has not been very positive, and have at least one daughter that is very physically fit. She participates in 3 sports year-round, and she's had some challenges with some of the direction and some of the grading and nitpicking. And
I think that's a good segue actually to the other half of the conversation, which was, are there places and spaces where your student who participates in 3 athletic events, where does that fit in that conversation too, around physical education in school versus I play basketball and softball and I swim and where do those pieces that kids also participate in?
I think it'd be a great idea trying to get that involved in the program. Instead of doing those things and then missing one class, and if you miss another one, you're not going to get an A.
Along those lines, I think one of the things that we need to explore is lifelong fitness and things and activities that kids can do throughout their entire lifetimes and how we can incorporate them into what we're doing in our entire phys ed program. I think Mr. Chappelle was here a couple weeks ago at the school board meeting. I don't know if that predated you guys or not. The phys ed teacher wrote a book, but I think that's some of the things that he's very much in favor of, and it's certainly current with the current literature and all that type of thing.
Good. I think that's a great idea.
I have more.
Okay. Yes, I have some new
That's a
business.
good question. This is the last one, I promise. I'd also like to get on your plate to begin a discussion around our issue at the high school, world language. It's not an issue, we have a terrific world language program. The issue is which direction do we segue to at the top end of the world language program? Towards AP world languages or towards A1 world languages? And sometimes they can be both. I've talked with our department chair, Lori Zook, and just which way we want to go, because the world language program that they design and advocate does not, exactly line up with AP. If we go with dual enrollment, it aligns itself more with some nuanced changes that they would have to do. They didn't declare which way they'd rather go, or if at all, but I think it's certainly, a service point to our students to be able to get, dual enrollment credit and or AP credit. So it's certainly an endpoint option I think we should investigate.
So right now, it's 2 years required, and even take a third, and then fourth is if you go to 4, it's honors. Is that correct?
Not exactly. There are honors at each level.
Okay.
And no years are required, but we are busting at the seams, and we have more than we can handle signing up.
Maybe that's just my requirement.
That's correct. Most colleges require 2 years, and that's probably why you think of that. Some, the more competitive schools, 3 and 4 years. The most competitive schools in the country, your top tier 1%, are 4 year. They want 4 years of language. It's a differentiator in applications. So, more to consider around that topic, but we have honors level and then just the regular level of world language at each level.
And I know some of our classes that we have right now in other disciplines, we offer AP courses, and then those courses can also be taken as dual enrollment. Are you thinking about doing the same thing with language, or would it have to be different because of the requirements for AP?
It really is something we have to engage the department about and see what they feel they can deliver and which direction they'd like to go. I think my position is that going with neither, I wouldn't be in favor of that. Okay. I'm okay with whichever direction they want to go. Certainly AP and dual enrollment would be terrific, but it may not line up with the philosophy that they've developed. So more would have to be investigated.
Okay, that's everything we have for our agenda.
As far as new business, I have one other item I'd like to hit. I know we've been talking about full-day kindergarten, and as far as implementing that, moving forward, it's not for this, but we have 2 full-day kindergarten classes scheduled now, and
Yes.
is there consideration for a third? It's my understanding that there are more students that could be enrolled in our full-day kindergarten.
And I'll certainly let Melanie speak to this, but there are other kids who could benefit from that without a doubt.
Right.
Absolutely.
So is that something that we want to try to consider as far as a third one for this year? Is that a separate issue than looking for, getting full-day kindergarten back?
That would be a separate issue. Certainly, we would like that if we have the staffing to do something like that.
Right.
So how many kindergartens total are there?
This year, 192, I believe.
I'm sorry, classes.
For the classes.
So there's 2 full-time and 8.
Right.
So you're saying, okay, so,
4 and 4.
but you could really use 3. So 3 and 7.
We could reach more children.
Sounds like 3 would be better than 2, and they're eligible students.
Right, but I was asking whether she wanted 3
And
or
the
4.
top
I mean, how many over are we?
The top end of the full day right now is 15. Is that right?
Classes are
Top to 15. And the regular classes are topped at what, 20?
21, I think.
21, okay.
Do we know if we have room for another class? I know going to the full model, there's facility concerns, but as far as adding an additional class,
We could make that work.
Okay. Yeah.
all right, thank you.
All right, so if the board and the administration have no new business, I'm going to open it up to the folks that are here.
The mic?
That might be best if you want to get picked up by the recording.
If you don't, you can just
The
sit
whole
down.
sign-in thing for
No.
Okay. Well, I'm Amy Hicks. You may remember, it actually preceded many of you. We received an invitation on email from the previous Curriculum and Instruction Committee chair, inviting teachers to start coming to these meetings. We've decided to happily take up that invitation. We want to start becoming part of the conversation because we're where the rubber meets the road. We're the deliverers of the curriculum and the providers of the instruction. And we want to be here to celebrate what's happening in the classroom and also make you aware of some of the concerns that we share. So a couple people are going to speak tonight to do exactly that, celebrate some of the things that are going on that we love, and also before we approach this budget season, maybe perhaps emphasize some areas in need of growth. And that's our purpose for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my first time I get to stand up here. Since I'm not a resident, I want to say thank you for that. Thank you very much. I'm going to read what I have because I'm just afraid I'm going to go off on a tangent.
Say your name first.
Callie Samuelson,
Okay.
Amity Elementary. So I'm here really to talk about the libraries. My colleague Lisa Earnshaw has given me some information about some studies that show that librarians can contribute to advanced reading and writing scores on standardized tests. Librarians who are not stretched between multiple buildings and work full-time have time to select appropriate nonfiction titles for Common Core requirements and teach Common Core standards, collaborate with classroom teachers to enrich the reading programs, and are able to offer flexible time for students to visit the library more often. There are studies that show that increased staffing hours correlate to increased reading and writing test scores. On average, 8% more students scored advance in reading when they had a full-time certified librarian than those who had part-time librarians. Ideally, in my library at Amity, I'd really like to innovate, which at this point I find that it's impossible to do. I would like to add a Makerspace, which is a location where students can build with Legos and Rubik's Cubes and slide puzzles and Connects and do arts and crafts and things, which might take place at the second half of my lesson after my lesson is completed and the students have chosen books. They could choose to do that in addition to read. I would really like to add some STEM-based projects that connect with literature. The students can come up with problems for their characters that the stories that I read to them about, their characters might face, and then we could have STEM solutions to these problems. So I could really do a lot of innovating if I had a little bit more time. I'd like to see us possibly look at increasing our middle school and high school libraries because currently there are only one librarian, 3 days at the middle school and 3 days at the high school. So if you have study hall on the day that they're not there, you may never see the librarian. So now I have to go to some of the difficulties that we face as the children's face with demoted special teachers. This is 5 years ago now. The decision was made to reduce elementary encores from 100% to 71%. I believe it was purely for financial reasons, but at what cost to the students? Typically, demotions are intended to discipline teachers who are unsatisfactory, and I assure you that these people are not unsatisfactory. On paper, it looks like these reduction of hours would work, but in practice, these jobs are full-time and then some. The demoted schedule has impacted our youngest learners in a negative way. Sometimes I arrive in the library and a student's already walking around. My report time's 8:30, but they're in class at 8:20. Their teacher said, "Oh, go down and get a book from the library." I'm not even in the building yet, and they're walking around the library. Sometimes faculty meetings may be held at 8 o'clock. Again, my report time's 8:30, so I miss out on the valuable information and hear the discussion of my peers. I get the information later on, but it's secondhand and maybe not as good as it could be. There's 31 classes at AEC, and in order to fit that into a shortened time and accommodate common planning time, one of the 11 third grades is split amongst 5 third grades, and one of the 11 fourth grades is split among 5 fourth grades. That eliminates 2 sections, and that makes this classes fit into my demoted schedule. But I never see the teacher of the split class, so I can't communicate with them as how their students are doing. And those classes have 29 students, which is 4 to 5 students larger than a regular homeroom. Is this good for education? I don't think it is. 730 students at Amity in 5-day cycle, and I get 3 15-minute blocks of planning per day. They're all separate. One in the morning, one in the middle of the day, and one at the end of the day. It's really not sufficient time to plan and prepare effective and engaging lessons, stay up to date on individual student needs, research new topics for lessons, and maintain an orderly library. And you have to realize that my counterpart at BEC and MEC has to maintain 2 libraries alone with the same schedule that I have. I also have to use my prep time to shelve books and sometimes my lunch time. And sometimes I have to shelve during class time. It's not really the best situation for kids. But here's what I see as good for kids. With a full-time library, the library could be open before and after classes for exchanging books. Right now, if they forget their book and they come to class, they forgot their book, sorry, you can get one next week. That's a long time. If I could be open before and after classes, I could provide that. If I had a 40-minute block of time to plan each day, I could stay up to date on IEPs and keep the library in good order. I could potentially stay after school and help with the Reading Olympics program, which is currently run by a teacher, because I'm not here after school. With more time in the day, I could work with upper grade teachers and coordinate research papers. Some of the 5th grade teachers have mentioned to me that their students are reading less at school and at home, and I could develop book talks and help the kids choose more engaging books. A full-time librarian could collaborate with the gifted teacher and utilize the library to do projects when classes are not in session, which I realize with 730 students, that's not going to be a lot of time. And I could also contribute to the well-being of the school community by being available for duties as needed and help with technology support, because I'm big in technology. In conclusion, I'm asking for each of you to consider restoring the special, I call them special, we're very special, the encore teachers at the elementary to full-time, which would greatly improve things for our students at the elementary level, and also consider fully staffing our secondary libraries. I talked really fast, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Can I
for
give you
the
a
time you
copy?
put into
Yes.
your recommendations. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
had extras we can share.
I wish I had to take notes. I could have had this.
I have more, I'll give them to you after.
I took it. Throw them a note.
You'll get it for you after.
Hi. I'm Mary Beth Gray. I'm the general music and chorus teacher at Amity. I'm also a Boone graduate, so I'm like a Boonie for life because I've been here since forever and employed since 2002. And I thank you for allowing me to speak since I live in Pottsgrove now. Sorry. When I first started at Boone, I was hired as a .5 teacher in this building, and for 3 years I taught 15 first and second grade classes. When full-day kindergarten was introduced in my 4th year, my class load increased to about 25 classes, and between that and having to travel to the old Monocacy Kindergarten Center, I was made a full-time employee. I had about 450 to 500 students at most during my entire tenure as a full-time employee. Keeping those numbers in mind, this is now my 5th year as a demoted employee. I'm teaching 27 general music classes as well as 3 sections of chorus. I have 1 for 5th grade and 2 for 4th grade, since all of the 4th grade is at the intermediate center, or whatever we are, Amity Elementary. I see approximately 680 of the 730 students each week, and that's because my counterparts, the other 2 band directors, have to teach a few of my classes so that I can have time to teach chorus in my schedule. Otherwise, I would be over my time. The counterparts in the other specialty areas do see all 730 students because they don't have that extra chorus time to allow time for. Mrs. Snavely, who's the band director at both buildings for 5th grade, also teaches one of the 5th grade classes at Birdsboro so that Naomi Conti can have time to teach her 5th grade chorus there. Chorus is not required or graded at the elementary level, but it's an important foundation for our students, especially if they want to continue in middle school. By the time they leave elementary school chorus, they already know how to read a score, they can follow along with their part, and those are things that Ms. Parrish obviously needs to build on, but doesn't have to start with the foundation. So although it's not something that they have to do, I do think that there's a lot of important components to it. Ever since we've been demoted, we used to have a select chorus at both buildings. We don't have time to do that anymore, so those students that really excel and want to go further don't have that opportunity, so I would love to be able to bring that back. While Mrs. Conti and I have worked hard to maintain the integrity of our general music program, demotions have definitely had a negative effect on it. Most of our kindergarten students are not offered music, only the 2 full-day kindergarten classes get it. They're actually offered no special area classes other than physical education. Over the last few years, I've noticed a decline in our students' abilities to meet their grade level standards in music, which leads me to believe that missing that first year in kindergarten is actually having a negative effect. It's especially apparent when they get to 3rd grade and we begin learning recorders. There's a noticeable difference in their fine motor skills as well, and I think that could be helped by restoring art to the kindergarten curriculum as well. In addition to missing out on special area opportunities in kindergarten, students in other grade levels are combined into larger groups, which Mrs. Samuelson touched on with the split classes. It's really just to allow us to see all the students in this shortened time frame of the day. The classes are larger, which leads to some management issues. Some of our 4th grade sections have 29 students in them. Last year we had 32 kids in 5th grade. And in my curriculum, we do a lot of movement. It's difficult to facilitate that with so many bodies in a relatively small space. A lack of instruments is another concern. With larger class sizes, there aren't always enough to go around, so we end up doing things 3 or 4 or 5 times, which then I get to do again and again and again. But that's my problem. That's okay. At MEC, Mrs. Conti has ukuleles that she just got this year, and she's hoping to introduce them into the 2nd grade curriculum. But with the current number of students in the split classes, there aren't enough to go around, so they'll have to take turns, which means less playing time for the students and less instructional time because they're going to have to wait to accommodate everyone. I would also love to get a set of classroom ukuleles at my schools to continue the curriculum beyond 2nd grade, but I'll run into the same problem with split classes, and obviously this can be eliminated by making us full-time. While it might not seem this way on the surface, our students will actually benefit if we have enough planning time, which Mrs. Samuelson also touched on. This is time that we can work on new curriculum. The librarians can prep new books to put them on the shelves for our students. The art teachers can have time to prepare more time-consuming projects for the students. The computer teachers can have more time to research the latest technologies. And currently none of this is feasible with the small chunks of planning time that we're given. It's barely enough to keep our heads above water. Most of the innovation and extra work that benefits our students is done on our own time. We're in our 5th year of making things work because at the end of the day, we all want to do what is best for our students, and that's what we've always done. I thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope that you will consider making it a more equitable situation for us.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray.
Thanks.
There's one more board member over there.
Over there, okay.
I'm all the way over. Oh, and
Oh,
Mr.
I'm
Miller.
sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
Thanks.
I just want to say one thing. I just want to remind everybody that we have to wrap up by 7:15, which you've got plenty of time. But I just wanted to say that.
Just in case everybody's,
No, it's fine.
just in
It's
case
fine.
everybody's got one.
Good evening. My name is Sue Hinkle. I am the elementary art teacher currently at AEC. Thank you for the opportunity to share for the first time my unique experience working with the Danny Boone Arts community. I have been an employee in the Danny Boone School District for 33 years. I have always worked hard for the district in promoting our art department. I am passionate about my job. I am a senior teacher that has seen educational trends come and go. I have made it a point to always stay as current in art education as possible through classes, workshops, even teaching in service workshops at Kutztown University. I have started my career in Danny Boone Junior Senior High School and have taught in every elementary building in the district, so I've taught at every grade level in the school district. I have experienced 12 different principals and 8 different superintendents. Through it all, I've stuck with this school district because I was able to foster, create, and share with a great community of people. I get to witness daily the joy of getting in the brains and getting hands messy with kids, creating art. I've followed high school art students into their careers and beyond. My collaborative experience with my colleagues has been a highlight in my career. My art department colleagues always share, encourage, and participate in professional growth opportunities together. We are a unified K-12 creative community, despite the hardships placed upon our department. I am the face of demotion. What has happened and is currently happening has seriously affected our whole school community. I've heard the words, "it's only art," in the past, and yes, it is only art for some of these students. For others, it's the most important place in the school. It makes a valuable lifelong impression. A full-time art instructor can only help the whole school community. Excuse me. I'm currently responsible for 730 students, and I know you've heard that. The number is in constant flux for us in the Encore classes because we deal with the entire school population. Approximately 150 students are delivered and picked up from my classroom every 40 minutes with 5 minutes in between. I am given 3 increments of 15 minutes of planning. The nature of our curriculum and material organizations and cleanup creates a situation of working overtime each and every day to do my part-time job. These numbers of students are the largest in the school district. I'm teaching a full-time schedule with only part-time hours. It is difficult to do the best job I can with limits, which is limited in the classroom time and planning time. Daily management in the Encore classes is, in turn, benefits the school community. Currently, our schedule has a kind of domino effect on the rest of the building schedule. One method used, as you've heard, is the split class situation, splitting the groups of 5 students and filtering them into 5 different classes throughout the Encore schedule. This bumps up our sizes to as many as 20 and in the past 32 students. It makes it difficult to meet the individual needs of the students. It requires extra work to filter out each project for each section back into their original class. To be honest, it is a confusing situation for the students, parents, and teachers. A full-time Encore schedule would eliminate this situation and bring our class sizes down to more equitable and manageable size. It would also give more options in scheduling to our overall building management in other ways. A positive effect could occur in the regular classroom schedule because we would not have to be stacked and compacted into our schedule when they have specials. The crowded lunch and recess schedule will have options for change. The heavy traffic flow in the hallways of large numbers of students could lessen, and overall behavior management in the buildings could improve. The PSSA and other standardized tests could have more flexible scheduling to meet the needs of our students. Encore teachers would be available for duties and adult presence in the hallway to increase safety. Extra time in the Encore classes before school is one suggestion by counselors for our young students who are having anxiety coming to school. A full-time Encore teacher would be available to meet this need. Students that are absent from art class could be given extra time in the art room to catch up on mixed work. The 5th grade art helper program could be reinstated at the end of the day, where they get to take on responsibilities in helping out the specials. Intervention assistance would be possible. I have always felt display is a accumulating activity that has been part of the art curriculum. Time is not allotted for this, but is expected by the parents, students, and staff. This aspect of creativity excites and hooks the students into creating art for our community. I feel I am criticized and I am not doing a service to my students if I do not display work in the hallways. But currently, this is only possible on overtime hours. Volunteers have stepped forward in the past to assist with display, but they also require security clearances and they may not work near students. We've had less volunteers as of recently. If you know anyone that is ladder certified, I'm always looking for help. Because of our schedule, part-time teachers cannot attend necessary informational meetings. A full-time art teacher could attend faculty meetings and receive first-hand communication from staff and administration. A full-time art teacher would be able to attend district in-services and meetings. We would be able to share ideas and offer insights into issues from a unique perspective. We could collaborate on special events and projects that cross over into the regular classroom, and we would again be part of the school community. A full-time art teacher could organize visiting professional artist programs and bring back the traveling K-12 district art show and assist with the elementary after-school art club. Students requested an after-school art club. They want even more art in their lives to create beyond the school day. Parent volunteers currently run the art club. A full-time art teacher could have more involvement in this club. I receive emails, I received one today, from parents asking questions and questions from students about art club during my school day. It is assumed I have the information and I am running the program. Time could return to develop the art curriculum to meet our current needs. Kindergarten art could return for all students. Our youngest students are showing signs of lower development in their scissor skills, control of their drawing materials, and overall fine motor ability. Kindergarten art is where this begins. The ability to use much-loved clay materials changed for all of our students due to time restraints. We have expensive equipment that's just sitting idle right now. Our Daniel Boone Art Department has always been able to provide our students with the opportunity to create and contribute to our school arts community, to be proud and feel that they are an important component in our bigger creations. We are a respected part of the larger Berks County art community also. Demotion disrespects and does not show support for the art programs we have all worked so hard to promote. Please restore our elementary encore programs. It is our students who are missing out. We need to better serve our Daniel Boone families and community now and in the future. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mrs. Hinkle.
Thank you.
Give one to Mr. Strom. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Cornish, and I am also not a resident of this school district, and I just want to say thank you for allowing us to come and speak. I am here tonight to speak to something that is very near and dear to me, and that is that of the elementary art program. I'm here to support my elementary art colleagues and ask that you consider restoring our elementary art program to full-time status. What you may not know is that I started my career here as both a high school teacher and an elementary teacher. I spent my mornings at Daniel Boone High School teaching 6 classes of art to 9th through 12th graders, and then traveled to Monocacy Elementary Center, where I spent the afternoons teaching kindergarten through 3rd grade art to 14 different classes. This experience has given me much insight into the demands and needs of elementary age students, and I would like to share the following insights with you. Currently, our kindergarten students receive little to no art instruction outside of their traditional academic setting. This is bewildering to me as a teacher, but also a parent of a child who will enter kindergarten next year. Kindergartners are our most tactile and hands-on learners. They learn through experience and through kinesthetic opportunity and exploration of materials. Without this, we deny them an opportunity to better understand and interact with their world. Mrs. Hinkle pointed out that she has split prep time. From personal experience, I must say that this is impossible to properly utilize in order to get supplies prepped, which is very inherent to our curriculum. It is stressful trying to prep in small chunks, and is also a job that cannot be done at home. The practice of splitting classes to accommodate the .76 schedule is disheartening and borderline embarrassing. Before taking a job here, I substituted at a neighboring district, and the only time they ever split students up was on a day when there was a desperate sub shortage. Yet we rely on this practice daily to make it through the day. I sympathize for the administrators who are in charge of scheduling .76 professionals. It is a logistical nightmare. I know these teachers could and would be utilized in other capacities, whether it be remediation or one-on-one tutoring, or for simply to put art displays together. I currently log my art displays, and so far this year I've spent over 35 hours at the high school hanging up art projects. It is very time-intensive labor, but one that any art teacher will jump to and do willingly because they are proud of their students and they want to show off all of their hard work. .76 means one thing, less. It means less for art and less opportunity. Less for our students with learning challenges who often excel in this environment, and less for our overall community. I could go on, but instead encourage you to read Elliot Eisner's 10 Lessons the Art Teach, or more importantly, ask our current students about their art experiences. I have never had a student reflect on their elementary art experience in a negative way at the high school. And it is because of the dedication of professionals like Sue Hinkle that we have these experiences and our students have these memories. Please keep in mind that half of our students' art education occurs in an elementary setting. Kindergarten through 5th grade is 6 years. That's half of their education of elementary art, and we have now reduced them in some way. I ask, as you continue to look at budget solutions, to consider giving back this part of the pie. No one is happy to get .76 of a slice. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Cornish.
Ms. Olafson, if I could add some perspective as to what Ms. Cornish just talked about here. I did a cost analysis back in December for the district administration, and over the 5 years of this demotion, this demotion was sold by a previous superintendent to a previous board as a massive cost savings. It has been anything but. In the 5 years, using district millage and contracted salaries, we have saved a total of 2/3 of a mil in 5 years. Total, not per year. That is the total savings. And for that 2/3 of a mil that we've saved over 5 years, we have lost 2 full years of instruction time. These people, none of them work part-time. Their contracts say part-time, but I can tell you, none of them work part-time. So right now, they're being used, in my opinion. And I think that needs to be corrected, and this board can do that.
Well, I've made it no secret that I've hoped that, at least with this particular issue, that we could start a discussion at the board level about making a change. I only got to see close up what .76 Encore teachers looks like for a very short period of time. I think just 1 year with my daughter. But I know that it was sold as something that for the kids would be invisible, and it's not. Do you have any
I disagree.
comments?
I'm not going to say anything. You know where I
Yeah.
stand.
Do you have anything to add? We'll get to you in just one second.
No, yeah, I've always saw the diminished programs. I certainly, anything that we could do if we can afford to restore, absolutely.
Do you have anything to add with this? Okay.
I don't think we can afford not to, but that's just not.
My name is Sherry Rogers. I am the math intervention teacher at Amity Elementary Center, and I can attest to the cuts in the Encore program because I was the full-time computer teacher when they were cut to part-time. I can also attest to the fact that I worked as the computer teacher hand in hand with the library teacher. We did so many projects. We did so much integration of the curriculum from the classrooms. But they don't have the time to do that. And that was just offhand, that's just from the things that they had said.
Were those things that you did, like coordinated during your planning periods and in the mornings and things like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. The library and the computer room were actually, we had a door in between us. So she would have all kinds of research projects that she would do with the children that often came from the curriculum in the classroom. She would discuss with me, well, what do you think we can do with this, Sherry? We can put it, what kind of a program can we put it into? How can we present it to the rest of the class? And that's what we did. I think that was before Dane even. Well, you weren't there then. So we did a lot of integration together, the librarian and myself. I didn't have the opportunity to work with the teachers that we have here.
What you actually wanted to say.
So
Sorry.
I'm actually here to talk about math. I did hear Mr. Hurley talk about study island. So one thing I want to address is I don't know what that is going to look like or what you're using study island to bring in. But we have had problems with study island. We've had problems from their end where we have children that are sitting in front of computers with no pictures. All the little icons that say that there's pictures, they're supposed to be there, are not appearing. I don't know whether I've asked Scott Matz, is this because of our bandwidth? Is this because of the program? Is it because we have so many children logged in at the same time? Amity Elementary has 11 or 12 classes per grade level, 5 and 5th grade. And so we have a lot of children all logged in on the laptops at the same time. So I'm not sure where some of these issues come from. Some of the other problems is we had children coming in 3rd grade. They're not used to using laptops. The login time is unbelievable how long it takes for children to log in. And that's if they know their login and password. That's if there's no computer issues, that the Wi-Fi is actually working. And one of our other 5th grade teachers can attest to, even 5th graders have trouble logging in. And then it takes a long time for the computer to recognize them. So there are just a couple little things. Study Island, I think, has a few little quirks actually within our building just because of the infrastructure that has gotten older. I mean, I don't know, how many years have we been open? 16 years, I think we've been open. So there's some updating that made, and I know that Andy Jacobs is doing that in our building, but we continue to have problems with Study Island all the time. Also, when you're asking a 3rd grader who is 8 years old to type all this information, there's constructive response questions in there. They have to type in not only sentences and so forth, but they also have to type in numbers with plus signs and equal signs and so forth. And it's a really tough job for the teacher running around trying to help kids saying, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. So there are some things to study on, especially with the little ones. I don't know about, and as far as computer class, we talked about trying to do some of those things in computer class too. The beginning of the year this year, there was so much crying on the 2nd day of school because we had kids that walked in and we were asking them to take a test on curriculum that they haven't even had. Now, if I gave you a chemistry test and said, okay, but I'm going to teach this to you the rest of the year, it was really, really, it certainly didn't help their feeling about themselves. They felt stupid because they didn't know this and so forth. And I know that we need testing. There's absolutely no question in my mind. We need to keep track of how the children are doing. But we did have a lot of problems this year, and I don't think we ever did it that soon. We've done testing, but never that quickly at the beginning of the year. 2nd day we started. I had lots of documents. I had a lot of.
Can I ask a question? Did we start early because of we needed answers about where those kids were by a certain date, or is it?
My thinking would be that we wanted data before our October in-service meetings.
Got it.
And I totally understand that. But I don't know what happened. But this year it was chaos in our building. We had new teachers that came in. We have new kids that came in. We had teachers that didn't know their logins. But most of all was the crying and the children that feel so horrible about looking at problems and so forth that they haven't had any kind of exposure to, plus the typing situation. So I did some data checking, and I found that most children work at least, now this is without the constructed response, because I made a suggestion to our teachers that the constructed response be done on paper rather than the kids trying to type in. We got better answers. We found that by just checking with a couple teachers that did that. We got better answers with the children actually doing that on paper rather than doing it into the, actually trying to type it into the computer.
We are getting close to 7:15, so if you just had like maybe 1 or 2 other points to make,
Okay.
we can wrap up.
One other thing that is, well, besides the fact that we now have, I've been, up until this year, I was the only teacher that helped with math, was supported math in the classrooms. This year we have no, 5th grade is grouped, and I don't want to say grouped by ability, but grouped for pacing, because some children work at a much slower pace. I've had children that scored advanced on the PSSAs, but need more time to understand. It takes them a little longer to learn that. I forget what my point was there. So I've been the only teacher there that's been trying to support, they keep saying 730, I thought we had 740, but 730 students, and I have another part-time person there who also shares building. She goes from Amity to Birdsboro. She's there for 3 hours, so it's one person and 3 hours. So that's been very difficult, especially with all the children being spread out throughout the classrooms, throughout 31 classrooms, not 31, I'm going to take away 2nd grade because I don't see 2nd grade. The other teacher does. But one more thing before I go. It's very concerning to me with all the snow days that we've had. Everything is about our published scores. And because of the calendar that the board has implemented for this year, and also, and I took a look at next year's calendar, our calendar has all our snow days after the PSSA testing. I don't like to say that I'm teaching to the PSSA. I'm teaching to a child. I want them to do the best that they can do. But it is frustrating for teachers knowing that the children are going to be exposed to material, again, that they haven't seen because we haven't been able to get to it. So all the snow days that we've had and the 2-hour delays have really impacted the instruction that's going on. Where before we had, we made up days on Martin Luther King, or we took days, and I'm not saying to take Easter away because they'll probably shoot me. But we need to get those days in prior to the testing. If we are going to be compared to my daughter's working for Springford, they did not have all these days off. They were at school. So now you're taking Daniel Boone and you're taking Springford and you're comparing scores. And we're not in the same league anymore. And I don't like to say that it's all about the PSSA scores, but that is what, a lot of us are talking about. And I didn't barely touch what I wanted to talk about. Whatever. But Dane will tell you, I'm not much for keeping my mouth shut. I usually have a lot to say.
I can attest to that.
You can email it too if you'd rather.
Yeah,
I mean,
and if you
anyone
would like
that
to
didn't.
email to us some more of your points,
So I'm
that's
just
fine.
glad that you didn't say,
Or come
all right,
back.
your time is up, or you hit my...
I kept telling her to push the light, but she didn't listen.
Don't do that.
One thing
All
I
right,
will
thank
say, just because it's something that's a little bit beyond my control, but I know that on the agenda for the regular committee of the whole meeting today is discussion of possibly having a technology committee created. If that is a decision that's made, some of these issues that I keep hearing crop up without having a lot of understanding or knowledge about Study Island, that would be something that group maybe could be discussing in the future. I know that there are things that need to be discussed with technology that is a little bit beyond the scope of what I can help with. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. Please come again. I know that we only scratched the surface, but we are going to adjourn the meeting, and we'll see you again at the committee of the whole in a couple minutes. Thank you very much.